This picture is going viral with Bria Hartley with the sinister grin, right? This malevolent look that's on her face right now. Clearly smiling after injuring Sophie Cunningham, man.
Bria Hartley knocked Sophie Cunningham out of the game after a nasty-looking collision to the leg. Cameras then caught Hartley grinning as Cunningham hobbled off in visible pain. Was it just bad luck or something more intentional? And how did the officials simply let it slide? Outrage quickly followed, with fans, and even Cunningham's own family, slamming the referees and calling for accountability after yet another reckless play left a player sidelined.
Sophie Cunningham, let's be clear here. Sophie Cunningham was targeted. Let's be very, very clear here. But Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty, dirty player.
Hartley's history of yanking hair, throwing players to the ground, and sparking reckless scrums is pouring fuel on the fire. Social media is exploding with demands for punishment, with many calling for a full investigation and even a suspension. All of that set the stage for the breaking point. Cunningham crashing to the floor, leaving the Fever's entire season hanging in the balance. Should Hartley be suspended? And what can the WNBA do to better protect its stars? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into it.
The play that just occurred.
That's like she tries to slide over right there, and Hartley just kind of falls and makes collision with that lower leg. You see her immediately grab it. And she went down hard and was clearly in a lot of pain.
What looked like an ordinary possession suddenly turned into disaster when Sophie Cunningham went down. In the second quarter, Bria Hartley drove hard to the rim, weaving through defenders, but her momentum carried her straight into Cunningham's right leg. Was it just a bang-bang play or something more? Cunningham instantly grabbed at her knee before collapsing to the court. She grimaced in pain, tried to push herself up, but dropped back down, clearly unable to stand on her own. Team trainers rushed to her side, helping her off as she leaned heavily on their shoulders, clutching her knee the whole way. Not long after the announcement came, she was done for the night, headed straight to the locker room.
Oh, and Cunningham is down. My goodness.
Timeout. Fever.
Should be. In a scary moment as we went to commercial, Sophie Cunningham hit the floor hard and she is being helped off the floor, heading back to the locker room.
The reactions courtside told the whole story. Fever head coach Stephanie White later admitted her immediate thought as she saw Cunningham collapse was, "Holy shit." That's the kind of raw response you only get when a body bends in a way it clearly shouldn't. The replays didn't ease any concerns either. They only amplified them. The collision angle, Cunningham gripping her knee, the pained expression across her face. All of it left teammates, opponents, and fans completely stunned, stuck in silence as the moment sank in.
Indiana Fever fans wake up pissed off today. Pissed off. Not only are we getting assaulted, but they're smiling about it. This is the 6th time they've smiled, laughed, and cheered on our Indiana Fever players getting assaulted, getting injured. And it pisses me off.
The refs didn't even stop to review the collision. They simply let play roll on. That choice became a controversy of its own. Fans ripped into the officiating, calling it careless and tone-deaf. Social media lit up with accusations that the league continues to fail at protecting its players. Sophie's sister, Lindsay, joined the chorus, blasting the refs and pointing out how the WNBA is quick to fine players for speaking out instead of addressing shaky officiating. Her mother, Paula, took it a step further, directly accusing Hartley of being reckless, though she later deleted her post. Still, their anger echoed the same frustration already boiling among Fever fans. The moment was mishandled, and Sophie was left unprotected in a dangerous situation.
Bria Hartley deserves zero benefit of the doubt. And Sophie Cunningham's family not too happy.
For Indiana, this wasn't just another setback. It was a crushing blow in a season already plagued with injuries. Caitlin Clark was sidelined with a groin issue, while Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson were already done for the year. Losing Cunningham created yet another void, stretching an already thin roster to its breaking point. Beyond her shooting and grit, Sophie's leadership had been the glue holding the team together. Without her, the Fever's playoff outlook suddenly looked shaky at best. But this moment was bigger than basketball. The collision, the injury, and the lack of an official review ignited a storm of outrage that spilled far outside the court. And then came the image that poured gasoline on the fire. Cameras zoomed in on Hartley right after the play, appearing to smirk as Cunningham was carried off. That snapshot alone flipped the conversation, from a debate about officiating to a full-on indictment of Hartley herself.
Making all kind of excuses to say that Bria Hartley is not a dirty player. Let me tell y'all something, man. Come on in here. Come on in here, man. Let me tell y'all something. If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, eats like a duck, it's a duck, man. Come on, man. She is the dirtiest player in the WNBA right now, winning the trophy. All right? Winning the trophy for it. Don't sit here and try to tell me Bria Hartley is not a dirty player.
Sophie Cunningham lay on the floor clutching her knee, the entire arena holding its breath. And just moments later, the cameras locked onto Bria Hartley, smirking. That split-second image, broadcast live and clipped online within seconds, became the centerpiece of the entire controversy. Fans didn't hesitate to react. To them, this wasn't just a case of bad optics. It looked like Hartley was laughing as Cunningham was helped off the court in obvious pain. That perception hit hard, sparking outrage that spread across every corner of social media. Within minutes, the still shot and video replay were being shared, dissected, and debated, turning one injury into a league-wide flashpoint and raising questions about Hartley's intent and character. What had already been a fiery debate over a reckless collision suddenly had a defining image. Hartley's grin, caught at the very moment fans were already on edge, became the symbol of everything they feared. For those convinced the play looked intentional, the smirk felt like proof. That expression flipped the entire conversation. What could have been dismissed as an unfortunate foul now carried a darker tone, one that transformed suspicion into outright outrage. And that's the critical turning point, because from that moment on, it wasn't just about a collision on the floor. It became a larger story about accountability, sportsmanship, and whether the WNBA was willing to step in when one of its players crossed the line. The context surrounding Hartley is what made that clip cut so much deeper. If it had been a different player, someone with a spotless reputation, fans might have brushed it off. Maybe they would have chalked it up to adrenaline in the moment, frustration boiling over, or even just a bad camera angle. But Hartley doesn't come in with a clean slate. Her reputation already carries baggage, and the internet wasted no time dragging it all back into the spotlight. Earlier this season, she was caught on film yanking Angel Reese's hair during a rebound battle, igniting outrage from both benches. Not long after, she was at the center of another dust-up, this time with Rebecca Allen, a scuffle that escalated until Hartley was tossed from the game. She's also had run-ins with Skylar Diggins and several other reported clashes that, over time, have built a troubling pattern in the public eye. None of these dust-ups on their own would define an entire career, but stacked together, they create a perception that's hard to shake. So, when the clip of Hartley appearing to laugh after Cunningham's injury started circulating, fans didn't view it as a one-off. They lined it up alongside those past confrontations, and a bigger picture emerged. Hartley is a repeat offender, a player who crosses the line one too many times.
Look, you can tell Bria Hartley, in my opinion, she launched herself into her knee. She did. And I've seen some of the reaction online, and guys, it's despicable. It really is. There's a lot of people celebrating this injury. And guess what? You can imagine who it is. It's members of the old WNBA fandom, the ones that root for Paige Beckers and Angel Reese and Asia Wilson and all the usual damn suspects.
Her reputation among fans, and even among some media voices, shifted toward that of a dirty player. Sports outlets began connecting the dots, linking her history to the Cunningham collision and openly questioning whether the WNBA would finally have to step in with the suspension. Analysts called the smirk the crystallizing moment, the snapshot that summed up a narrative already building against her. Others pointed out that her earlier incidents had mostly gone unpunished, fueling the idea that she could play recklessly without consequence. And that's exactly why, for so many viewers, that smile felt like a slap in the face, not just to Cunningham, but to the very idea of accountability in the league. At this point, the narrative had already locked in. Hartley as the villain. Sophie Cunningham sidelined with a knee injury, officials accused of looking the other way, and Hartley caught walking off with a smirk. That was the image that defined the night. But for Indiana, the fallout went far beyond perception. They still had a game to finish, and they were staring at a battered roster and a 21-point hole on the scoreboard. The real question became whether the Fever had anything left in the tank, or if this was the breaking point where their season would finally collapse. No Caitlin Clark, no Ari McDonald. Cunningham now out of action, and a third-quarter deficit against one of the most physical teams in the league. On paper, it was over. The game looked finished before it even reached the final buzzer. And yet, that's when Indiana stunned everyone. Instead of folding, they flipped the script, clawing their way back to deliver the single largest comeback in franchise history, turning a night of outrage and heartbreak into one of the most improbable turnarounds the WNBA has ever seen. The spark that changed everything came from Kelsey Mitchell. At halftime, she had managed only 4 points. Nothing to suggest what was about to unfold. But once the second half tipped off, she absolutely exploded. Mitchell poured in 34 points after the break, finishing with 38 total to tie her career high. And she did it with a level of efficiency that bordered on unstoppable. 11 of 22 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3, and 11 of 12 at the free throw line. Every time the Fever's season looked like it was about to cave in, Mitchell answered the call. She knocked down tough jumpers, drew fouls, and hit dagger threes that kept Indiana alive. Then, in overtime, she completely took over. Mitchell scored the Fever's first 10 points of the extra period, capped by back-to-back threes that silenced the Sun, shocked the crowd, and injected her teammates with a belief they hadn't shown all night.
Atkins, 7 to shoot. Cardoso rolls, catch. Cardoso over the top, can't get it. Reese fights for the rebound and a foul, and this time gets a little chippy and a shove on Nelson Adota. And listen, this arena, typically we'll see some ringside fights, and Charles this time trying to fight through the official, points a long finger. And as both teams walk to their respective corner.
But we mentioned the physicality and that last possession, the contact being let go. This time, I think it was accidental by Hartley. And then Reese just with a big reaction. And Tina Charles, being the vet that she is, going to stick up for her team.
It wasn't just a hot streak. It was a one-woman takeover that flipped the game on its head. But it wasn't just Mitchell shouldering the load. Aaliyah Boston held down the paint with a commanding double-double, finishing with 14 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Against Connecticut's bruising frontcourt, her presence on the glass was everything. Every rebound she pulled down gave Indiana a second chance, and every kick-out pass to the perimeter bought Mitchell just enough space to keep her shooting rhythm alive. Boston's impact went beyond the box score. Her composure in the middle settled the Fever during stretches when the game threatened to slip away. She absorbed contact, redirected the defense, and kept possessions alive long enough for Indiana's offense to find its footing. While Mitchell lit up the scoreboard, Boston's steady hand in the trenches was what held the entire effort together. Odyssey Sims stepped up in a huge way when Indiana needed her most. She poured in 19 points and handed out 7 assists, running the offense with the poise of a veteran who had been steering this team all year. With both Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham sidelined, Sims slid seamlessly into the role of secondary playmaker. She pushed the pace, attacked gaps in the defense, and kept Connecticut scrambling to adjust. Her aggressiveness gave Indiana exactly what they lacked early on. Another creator who could take pressure off Mitchell and keep the Sun from loading up on her. Possession after possession, Sims's drives opened passing lanes, her vision set up teammates, and her timely buckets gave the Fever a true two-headed attack. Together, she and Mitchell turned the game into a duel the Sun simply couldn't win. And then came the dagger. Lexi Hull's 3 in overtime. Her stat line won't jump off the page, but in that moment, none of that mattered. Rising with confidence, Hull buried a corner triple that sent the Fever bench into chaos. The Sun, once holding a 21-point cushion, suddenly looked deflated, watching momentum slip completely out of their hands as Indiana's celebration erupted. That single shot didn't just tilt the game, it cemented the comeback. This rally was bigger than one win in the standings. It reignited the heartbeat of a wounded roster. A team stitched together out of necessity, held steady by sheer grit, proved they could weather chaos and still claw out victory. Mitchell's career night will dominate the highlight reels, but it was the combined toughness of Boston, Sims, and Hull that kept the fight alive and pushed Indiana toward one of the most unforgettable wins in franchise history. And when the final horn sounded, after the handshakes and as the cameras cut away, the true weight of the night settled in the one place the broadcast couldn't show: the locker room. That's where the Fever could finally exhale, realizing they hadn't just won a game. They had salvaged belief in their season. Inside the Fever's locker room, the story of resilience was unfolding in real time. The air was still heavy from the comeback, sweat and adrenaline hanging thick as players tried to process what they had just done. Coach Stephanie White didn't let the moment pass quietly. Standing before her team, her voice steady but charged with emotion, she reminded them that this victory wasn't just about erasing a 21-point deficit. It was about proving who they were when everything seemed stacked against them. The context made Coach White's words land with even greater force. Sophie Cunningham had already been helped off the floor after a frightening collision. Caitlin Clark was absent, dealing with a family matter. And both Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald were already lost for the season. For most teams, that string of setbacks would have drained the fight completely. White saw the opposite. She pointed to the comeback they had just pulled off as the very definition of grit. Not a motivational cliche, but living proof of what refusing to fold can actually look like. That resilience echoed far beyond the locker room, too. Even in her absence, Clark made sure her voice was heard. She posted a short but powerful message on X. Battled, battled, battled. So proud. It was simple, but it hit exactly where it needed to, reminding her teammates that she was watching, that she was with them, and that their effort mattered. Cunningham added her own voice, sending out a raw, unfiltered reaction that read, "Kelsey freaking Mitchell." Coming from someone whose own season now hangs in uncertainty, it carried a different kind of weight. It wasn't bitterness or frustration. It was pride. Pride in her teammate, pride in the fight, pride in the proof that the Fever weren't done yet. The real takeaway wasn't the silence or the injury updates. It was how this shorthanded Fever team kept holding each other up when quitting would have been easier. Coach White called their resilience worth gold, a phrase that summed up why this night mattered beyond the standings. From White's steady words to Clark and Cunningham's pride-filled posts, and even Sydney Colson joking, "We down to 4 players, but F it, we ball." The message was the same. This team is stronger together than apart. For a franchise still fighting to climb back into contention, that unity matters as much as any stat line. It's what gives them a chance to survive the stretch run, even with key players missing and tough matchups ahead. Cunningham's MRI looms large, and fans are right to be concerned about how it could affect their playoff push.
You are the consummate professional. We love you. We appreciate you. You are huge.
But the Fever walked out of that locker room with something just as real: trust. Trust that they can weather storms together. That feeling, born out of one of the season's most heated games, framed the bigger picture. What happened against Connecticut wasn't just a comeback. It was a statement, a public declaration of resilience, written not in headlines or numbers, but in the way this team stood shoulder to shoulder when everything else said they shouldn't. Out of one of the WNBA's ugliest moments came Indiana's greatest rally. Sophie Cunningham's injury could have ended the Fever's night. Instead, Kelsey Mitchell delivered a masterpiece. She tied her career high with 38 points, the most in the league this year, and powered Indiana to the biggest comeback in franchise history. Mitchell dropped 34 after halftime and scored the Fever's first 10 in overtime, sealing a win that nobody saw coming. But the collision has only turned up the pressure on the league. Fans, media, and even family members are demanding answers, with suspension talk now squarely on the table. So what do you think? Should Bria Hartley be suspended? And what more can the WNBA do to actually protect its players? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Click the video on your screen, and we'll see you next time.